everyone, good morning. You're watching Doordarshan News and this is the news for Hearing Impaired. I am Nancy Kohli and with me is Manisha. Let's begin with the headlines. The CBI arrests former Union Minister P. Chidambaram in the INX media case after the veteran Congress leader evades probe agencies for over 26 hours. Chidambaram makes a dramatic appearance at the Congress headquarters in New Delhi. The Central Probe Agency takes him into custody from his residence. He will be produced before the Rouse Avenue Court today. Prime Minister Modi to depart on a three-nation visit today. He will hold bilateral talks with France in the first leg of his visit, followed by the visit to the UAE and Bahrain. In the final leg, Prime Minister Modi will participate in the G7 meeting in France. After the primary schools, the middle schools reopen in Kashmir. The daytime restrictions lifted and landline telephones functional in most of the areas. One Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorist killed in an encounter in Baramulla. Further setback for Pakistan's attempts to internationalize the Kashmir issues. Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's France visit, the French Foreign Minister says that the Kashmir issue is a bilateral issue between the two countries. Bangladesh also says the abrogation of Article 370 is an internal matter of India. And in sports, first test of the two-test series to be played between India and the West Indies under the ICC World Test Championship at Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in North Sound, Antigua. Indian men's hockey team hammers New Zealand 5-0 to win the Olympic Test event. Indian team bounced back from their 1-2 loss against New Zealand in round-robin league stage with an impressive display. Our top story, high drama unfolded on Wednesday as CBI arrested former Union Minister P. Chidambaram in connection with the INX media case. Chidambaram has been taken to the CBI office where he is being questioned in connection with the probe. A team of doctors from the Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital also conducted the medical test of Chidambaram. The senior Congress leader was arrested from his posh Jorbagh residence, where some officers from the Central Investigating Agency scaled walls to gain entry into the premises. The arrest took place hours after Chidambaram failed to get any immediate reprieve from the Supreme Court. The drama began with Chidambaram making an appearance at the All India Congress Committee headquarters, where he addressed a press conference and claimed innocence. As Chidambaram reached his residence, the CBI team followed the former Union Minister. With a big media contingent beaming live images of the developments, the CBI team first knocked the gates to gain entry, but on finding no response, they nimbly scaled the nearly 5-foot-high walls to gain entry. Once three officers reached inside, they opened the gates to allow another team members waiting outside as well. And soon a team of officers identifying themselves as from Enforcement Directorate also arrived at the scene. The Delhi police personnel were also posted to prevent any adverse law and order situation. Another small team of officials rushed to the back door to secure all the entry and the exit points to the bungalow. A team of about 24 officials was present at the bungalow, with Chidambaram being inside with other Congress leaders and renowned lawyers Kapil Sibal and Abhishek Manu Singhvi. After spending about 50 minutes inside his residence, the probe teams took Chidambaram into custody and reached the CBI head office, where the leader was formally arrested. Moving on now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be on a three-nation state visit to the France, UAE and Bahrain beginning today. During his bilateral visit to France, Prime Minister Modi will hold bilateral talks with the French President Emmanuel Macron. Prime Minister Modi will also meet the French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe and also address an event of the Indian community at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. A memorial for Indian victims of two Air India flight tragic air crashes of 1950 and 1966 will also be inaugurated. On the second leg of the visit, Prime Minister Modi will be in the UAE from 23rd to 24th of this month, where he will hold delegation-level talks with the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. On the occasion of Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary celebrations, commemorative stamps will be launched in Abu Dhabi. The launch of the RuPay card is also on the schedule. In Bahrain, the Prime Minister will hold meetings with the top leadership of the country. Prime Minister Modi will also attend the G7 summit in France on his way back. India has been invited as a partner country. Prime Minister Modi will also be demonstrating the Jan Dhan, that's the JAM, Aadhaar and Mobile, in a digital transformation session. And news now from Jammu and Kashmir, where situation remained peaceful across the state, especially the Kashmir Valley, where restrictions have been eased in some more areas. Middle schools in the Kashmir Valley reopened, and earlier the primary schools in the valley had reopened on Monday. Telephone services have also been restored to great extent. Meanwhile, the security forces are keeping a close tab on the security situation in the valley. 101 Hajis from Srinagar arrived back home. The administration ensured that they face no inconvenience on their return. The army paid tributes to this martyr, Special Police Officer Said Bilal Ahmed in Baramulla on Wednesday. Bilal Ahmed was martyred in an encounter in North Kashmir district of Baramulla. In Jammu and Kashmir, a Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorist was killed in an encounter with the security forces in Baramulla. The police said that the slain terrorist has been identified as Momin Gojri, a resident of Baramulla. A special police officer of Jammu and Kashmir Police, Bilal Ahmed, was also martyred in the gun battle. This was the first untoward incident reported in the state after the abrogation of Article 370. And it's a further setback for Pakistan's attempts to internationalize the Kashmir issue. UK, France and Bangladesh have come forward to support India on its historic decision on Jammu and Kashmir's special status. Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's France visit, the French Foreign Minister said that the Kashmir issue is a bilateral issue between the two countries. Bangladesh has also said that the abrogation of Article 370 is an internal matter of India. The global powers have also appealed to all the parties in the region to exercise restraint going forward. In a telephone conversation with Prime Minister Modi, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson categorically said that Jammu and Kashmir is an internal matter of India and Pakistan. Spokesperson at the 10 Downing Street in a statement said, I quote, "The Prime Minister and Prime Minister Modi discussed the current situation in Kashmir. The Prime Minister made it clear that the UK views the issue of Kashmir as one for India and Pakistan to resolve bilaterally." He also underlined the importance of resolving issues through dialogue. Various other countries including Russia, Maldives, Afghanistan, the UAE and Sri Lanka backed India and condemned Pakistan's position on Article 370. After completing his three-nation visit to Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has arrived in Delhi. On the last leg of his Baltic nations visit, the Vice President held delegation-level talks with the Estonian President and reviewed bilateral relations and potential areas of cooperation. India and Estonia agreed to strengthen the bilateral cooperation in trade and commerce in the areas of IT, e-governance and cybersecurity. The fifth meeting of India-Nepal Joint Commission was successfully concluded in Kathmandu on Wednesday. The meeting was co-chaired by the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and the Foreign Affairs Minister of Nepal Pradeep Kumar Gyawali. The Joint Commission reviewed the entire gamut of bilateral relations, especially connectivity and economic partnership, trade and transit, power and water resources, and culture and education. The Commission expressed happiness over momentum generated in the overall aspects of Nepal-India relations following the exchange of high-level visits in the past 2 years. Views were also exchanged on the review of the 1950s Treaty of Peace and Friendship and the submission of the report of the Eminent Persons Group on Nepal-India relations. Matters related to cooperation in international, regional and sub-regional fora were also discussed. The Joint Commission expressed happiness at the progress made in various bilateral projects. Both the sides agreed to an early conclusion of the review of treaties and agreements related to trade, transit and rail services. Noting that inundation is a serious problem for the people living in the border areas, the Joint Commission underlined the need for addressing inundation issues. A memorandum of understanding on food safety and standards between the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India and the Department of Food Technology and Quality Control of Nepal was signed and exchanged in the presence of the two ministers. During the meeting, the two checks for Terai Roads project and post-earthquake reconstruction project were also handed over by the Ambassador of India to Nepal, Manjeev Singh Puri, to the CEO of National Reconstruction Authority and Secretary, Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and the Transport of Nepal. And moving on now to sports news, it's time for new beginnings for India and the West Indies as they get started with the ICC World Test Championship campaigns. The first test of the two-test series will be played between India and the West Indies under the ICC World Test Championship at Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in North Sound, Antigua today. It's been a while since both the sides played in the whites. India's last test series was in January while the West Indies was a month later. And since then, both the sides have switched focus to shorter formats, with the IPL and the World Cup taking bulk of the time. Indian men's hockey team is in red-hot form as they blanked New Zealand 5-0 to win the Olympic Test event in Tokyo on Wednesday. The Indian team bounced back from their 1-2 loss against New Zealand in round-robin league stage with an impressive display in the summit clash at the hockey stadium. The Indian team raced to a 5-0 lead in the first two quarters. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the news. Thanks for being with us.